On the day I got married, I did one small thing my grandmother told me to do. Nobody at that wedding ever knew about it. Not my husband, not the preacher, not a soul in those pews. And I have been married a long, long time now, long enough to have opinions about it. And I still cannot tell you, hand on heart, whether that little thing was a silly old superstition, or the reason that Man and I are still sitting at the same kitchen table all these years later. That's number 12. We'll get there, I promise. But here's what I want from you today, and I want you honest. I'm going to walk you straight through a wedding day, the old way, start to finish. And every one of these, I'll bet you already know half of, the famous half. What I want to give you is the other half, the part almost everybody's forgotten, the reason underneath the rhyme. So keep count of 2 things. How many you already knew, and how many you're hearing for the first time. I'll bet you a shiny penny it comes out closer than you'd think. Let's start before the bride is even dressed. Number 1. Something old, something new. Everybody in the world can finish this one. Something old, something new, something borrowed, something blue. You've heard it 100 times. But almost nobody remembers there's a 5th line, and it's the one that got left off. And a silver 6pence in her shoe. A little silver coin tucked down into the bride's left shoe for wealth and good fortune in the marriage. That's the piece the world dropped. And here's what each one actually meant, because they weren't just a pretty list. Something old tied her to the family she came from. Something new was hope for the life ahead. Something borrowed had to come from a happily married woman. You were carrying a little of her good marriage into yours. And something blue stood for faithfulness and true love, from old ideas about blue being the colour of loyalty. 4 wishes and a coin worn on your body up the aisle. Now you know the whole thing. Number 2. The groom can't see the dress. This one you know cold. The groom must not see the bride in her gown before she comes down the aisle, or it's bad luck on the marriage. Still going strong today. Couples who agree on nothing else still guard this one like a treaty. But here's the half that's faded out. It wasn't only the groom who wasn't supposed to see. The bride wasn't supposed to see her own finished reflection either. She'd leave one thing off in front of the mirror. A glove, an earring, the second shoe. And put that last piece on only after she turned away from the glass. You never looked at yourself complete, because to see yourself already finished was to tempt fate to break the picture before you reached him. Leave one thing undone at the mirror. Finish it on the way out the door. Number 3, the last stitch. And here's one I'd wager real money hardly a soul under 70 has ever heard. The wedding dress was never supposed to be entirely finished until the last minute, the morning of, sometimes with the bride already half in it. And the woman putting in that final stitch, a mother, a sister, the closest friend, would sometimes work a single strand of her own hair into the hem as she sewed. Luck stitched right into the seam. And, the story goes, so she might be the next one down the aisle herself. A wish sewn in by hand, riding in the hem all day, when nobody would ever see it. You feeling that count yet? We're leaving the dressing room. Number 4. Rain on your wedding day. Now we're out into the morning, and everybody's watching the sky. Rain on your wedding day. You've heard it argued both directions. Bad luck, say some. But the older, kinder reading is the one I like. Rain is good luck. A wet knot is the hardest to untie, they said, so a couple married in the rain is a couple that holds. And all the tears you'd shed in the marriage, you cried out that day, up front, and got out of the way. But the sky wasn't the only thing you watched on the way to the church. It mattered enormously what you saw on that journey. And this is the part that'll get you. Meet a chimney sweep on the way to be married, and that was tremendous luck. So much so that people used to hire one, paid to turn up in his soot and shake the groom's hand. At some weddings there's still a sweep, and half the guests have no idea why. But other sights were dreaded. A funeral procession, a pig crossing your path, an open grave. See the wrong thing on the way, and the old folks' hearts sank before the vows even started. And I'll tell you something at my own expense, since we're being honest. It poured on my wedding day. Poured. And my grandmother leaned over, dry as anything, and said, "That's the best luck there is. That knot won't ever come loose." Well, decades later, every time it rains, I remind that husband of mine were apparently impossible to untie, and he'd best make his peace with it. He's stopped arguing. That's a superstition earning its keep. Number 5. The wrong foot and the first tear. Here's a small one, nearly gone. A bride was to step into the church right foot first, never the left, which was the unlucky one. And there was a watch kept on who cried first. In some tellings, if the bride shed the first tear, good luck. In others, you didn't want to be seen weeping too early. Either way, somebody was always watching the faces. Number 6. The veil. The veil, you know. Bride wears one, lifts it at the altar, very romantic. What you may not know is what it was originally for, and it's a little chilling. The veil was to hide the bride, to disguise her from evil spirits, jealous of her happiness, and confuse them so they couldn't find her. And in the old days of arranged marriages, some say it kept the groom from getting too clear a look until the vows were spoken and it was too late to object. That sweet lace veil started life as a hiding place. Romance came later. We're at the church door, about to trade the getting ready rules for the ones said at the altar. And those got serious. Number 7. The ring finger. The wedding ring goes on the 4th finger of the left hand. You know that. Here's why, and it's lovely. The old belief, going back to the Romans, was that a single vein ran directly from that finger to the heart. They called it the vena amoris, the vein of love. So the ring sat on the one finger with a private road to the heart, binding the promise to the very centre of you. And there was a warning wrapped around it. If the ring slipped and hit the floor before it was safely on the finger, that was a bad omen, and a shiver went through everyone who saw it. Some even said whichever partner dropped it would be the first to die. So the best man guarded that ring like his life depended on it. Because in the old way of thinking, somebody's just might. Number 8. The date, the colour, and the words. The old folks had strong feelings about when you married and what you wore. Marry in May, they warned, and you'll rue the day. May was deeply unlucky for weddings, going back to old Roman festivals of the dead. And the dress had its own rhyme. Married in white, you've chosen right. Married in grey, you'll go far away. Married in red, you'd be better off dead. White won for a reason, and folks made sure of it. And here's a delicate one. You weren't supposed to rehearse the vows all the way through, word for word, before the day. To speak your whole vow out loud ahead of time was to tempt fate, as if saying it too soon might mean you never got to say it for real. So couples practiced around it and left the true words for the day. Number 9. Over the threshold. The vows are said. Now the groom carries the bride over the threshold of their new home, and you know this one as pure romance. Him sweeping her up, everybody laughing. But it was never really about romance. It was about that doorway being dangerous. If the bride tripped crossing into her new home, that was a terrible omen for the whole marriage. So you removed the risk and carried her. And for an older reason, evil spirits were thought to lurk at the threshold, and a bride was believed especially easy for them to snatch. So he lifted her clean over it, feet never touching, past the danger and safely inside. Romance was just the version that survived. Number 10. Breaking something on purpose. Now here is one most people have truly never heard, and I love it. At a good many old weddings, somebody broke something on purpose. A plate, a glass, dishes, smashed deliberately, often by the groom or the guests, and the number of pieces it shattered into. That was the number of happy years the couple would have together. So you didn't tap it gently. You broke it good, and you counted the shards, and you cheered for a high number. Which is the same family of belief as the old dread of a bride breaking her heel, or anything breaking by accident on the day. Because a break you didn't choose was luck slipping. But a break you chose and counted? That one you turned into a blessing. There's something very human in that. If the glass is going to break either way, be the one who breaks it and count the good years out of the pieces. We're at the reception now, the knot tied. But the old folks weren't finished. There was luck to be handed out and caught. Number 11. The cake, the kiss, the bouquet. You know, the bouquet toss. Whoever catches it is next to marry. And the rice thrown over the couple, which people now swap for petals or birdseed, but which started as grains scattered for fertility and plenty. Those, you know. Here's what's faded. The cake was thick with old magic. The couple had to make that first cut together, hands overlapping on the knife. A first task done as one, and bad luck to cut it any way but together. Couples save the top tier to this day, and half don't know it began as cake kept for the christening of the first baby, already expected to come. And there was luck in the crumbs. A sliver of wedding cake passed through the ring and slept on was said to make a single girl dream of the man she'd marry, and old shoes tied to the back of the wagon, so the couple clattered off, trailing everyone's good wishes down the road. Which brings us all the way back to me, and the one small thing I did. Number 12. Here it is. When my grandmother helped me dress that morning, she pressed something into my hand and told me to sew it into the hem, down low where it would never show. It was a scrap cut from her own wedding dress, from a wedding an ocean away, in a country she left as a girl and never saw again. And a single small coin, older than I could imagine, worn smooth. Sew it in, she said, so you carry us with you. So you're never standing up there alone. And I did. I walked down that aisle with a piece of her marriage and her mother's before her, stitched into my hem, riding along against my ankle where not one living soul could see it. Something old, something borrowed, something blue, I suppose, if you count how far it had travelled and how much it had been through. So let me ask you, and I mean it. What did you do on your wedding day for luck? Something old, a coin in your shoe, a stitch, a secret nobody saw. And did it come through for you? And if you never had a wedding, or you're still waiting on one, tell me which of these you'd carry up the aisle. Down in the comments. I read every single one. Because here's what I've landed on, after all these years married to that man. I've watched couples do every last thing on this list by the book. The coin, the veil, the lucky day. And split up inside 5 years. And I've watched others break every rule in it and stay happy for 50. So I'll be straight with you, the way I promised. Not one of these superstitions kept my marriage together. No coin, no stitch, no lucky rain holds two people together for decades. Only the two people do that, every ordinary morning, on purpose, for years, long after the cake is gone and the dress is in a box in the attic. But that little scrap was never really magic, and somewhere I always knew it. It was a promise, said in the only language a practical woman like my grandmother would allow herself. Not out loud, not in fancy words, but sewn quietly into a seam. It said, "You come from people who stayed. You carry us. Now go and stay, too." And maybe that's all any of these ever were. Not spells. Wishes. The oldest wishes we've got. Handed down and stitched in and tucked into shoes because we can't bear to send the people we love up that aisle without every good thing we know how to give them. I'd sew it in again tomorrow. Every stitch. So what's your count? How many did you already know? And how many are brand new to you tonight? Tell me if it came out closer than you thought. And tell me the one I asked for. The thing you carried, or would carry, for luck. I read every last one. Knock on wood on your way out.